The sky over East Hampton looked like it couldn't decide whether to rain or not, a dull, heavy gray that felt like the whole weekend was holding its breath. A black SUV rolled up the gravel driveway of the Bington estate, one of those places that didn't just whisper wealth, it practically shouted it. Marble pillars, hedges trimmed like topiary sculptures, and a front door bigger than most people's living rooms. Inside that SUV sat Danielle Renee Gibbons, founder and CEO of Neurospace, 41 years old, sharp as a scalpel, raised in Trenton, New Jersey by her aunt after losing her mother to lupus at 10. Everything she had, she built from scratch, from code, grit, and long nights fueled by vending machine coffee and the kind of doubt that only makes you more dangerous. She adjusted the collar of her gray blazer. No frills, no flash, just purpose. The driver opened the door with a polite, "Ma'am, we've arrived," and she stepped out like she'd done this 100 times before, even if the gravel under her heels felt different this time. Charles Bington greeted her with a practiced grin and outstretched arms, all silver hair and old money charm. "Danielle," he beamed, "so glad you're here." She shook his hand firm, professional, already clocking that this wasn't a welcome, it was a performance. Behind him, his wife Victoria floated over in a champagne-colored suit like she stepped off the pages of a magazine. Her smile was warm, too warm, the kind you give a neighbor you're not quite sure about. "Welcome to our home," Victoria said smoothly. "Long flight." "It was fine," Danielle replied, polite but not soft. The staff, all young, brown-skinned, uniformed, moved like ghosts around them, taking her bag and disappearing. As they walked through halls that smelled like lemon polish and old money, Charles pointed out the architecture like she hadn't already Googled the blueprints of this place a week ago. But her mind was elsewhere on the deal. A $500 million merger, expanded R&D, global rollout. It was everything CEOs dreamed about. But Danielle had never been like other CEOs. When Victoria mentioned she'd be staying in the East Wing, not the West where all the other guests were, Danielle didn't flinch, just looked her in the eye for a half-second longer than necessary. The message was clear: privacy or segregation. Take your pick. She took the room. Beige and glass, no personality, just money. The kind of place where no one had ever laughed too loud or cried too hard. A knock at the door. Clark, the assistant, pale, young, nervous, in a suit that didn't quite fit. "Dinner's at 7. Formal. There's a stylist downstairs if you'd like suggestions." She smiled just enough to say she'd heard the tone behind that word. "I'll be fine, Clark." She dressed with intention. Navy dress, low bun, subtle gold earrings. Clean, controlled. Not to impress, to remind. Stepping out into the hallway, she crossed paths with another guest, a man in tuxedo and sneakers, old Boston money vibe, gave her a nod like they were equals. They weren't not in that house. The dining room was cinematic candlelight, ocean view, table long enough to seat 20. Charles stood at the head, scotch in hand. Victoria circled like a hostess in a movie. When Danielle entered, he raised a glass. "Our guest of honor, the brilliant Miss Gibbons." Polite applause. Not warm, not cold, just measured. Victoria took her arm, led her not to the head of the table, but halfway down the middle. Not the kids' table, but not where the power sat either. Danielle noted the placement. Every seat a strategy. She sat, nodded, stayed quiet. "So you're the genius," a man sat across from her, mid-30s, tan, smirking like he owned the patent on charm. She answered evenly, "I'm the CEO of Neurospace." "Oh, right, the AI thing," she explained. He blinked. The woman next to him added, "You just seem like you'd be in media. You have presence." Danielle smiled the way women like her learn to smile. Cool, distant, controlled. Later, someone leaned over and said, "I told Charles it was smart getting some color in the portfolio." She didn't blink. "We're not paint samples. And Neurospace isn't a diversity hire." He laughed, clearly not hearing her. She did what she always did, listened, scanned, calculated. This wasn't her first table where the knives were under the napkins. Then came Gregory, Charles's son. Wine-glossed, confident, casual. He leaned in, said, "Dad thinks you're impressive. But there's concern. About temperament." Danielle's face didn't move. Temperament. Yeah, founders like you passionate. But that can become volatile. A $500 million deal needs stability. She stared at him. If I were a 45-year-old white man in Allbirds, would we be having this conversation? He grinned. Come on. Don't be so sensitive. She stood. No announcement. No drama. Just stood. Excuse me, she said and walked out. She found the guest bathroom pristine, chrome cold. Locked the door. Exhaled. Not crying she couldn't afford to. Just breathing. Just processing. Her phone buzzed. It was Shauna, her CFO. How's it going? Danielle typed back. I'm reconsidering everything. Shauna replied. You always said we don't beg for tables. We build our own. That hit harder than anything at dinner. A knock on the door. Victoria. Everything okay? Danielle stepped out, calm. Just needed a moment. Victoria said, if this is about Gregory. It's not just about Gregory, Danielle said. It's about how leadership looks when it doesn't look like yours. Back in her room, Danielle opened her laptop, drafted a statement. Neurospace will no longer pursue partnership with the Bington Group. Integrity cannot be negotiated. She didn't send it. Not yet. But her gut had already decided. Next morning, Shauna showed up. Took a red eye. You need a backup, she said. They talked. Danielle closed the laptop. I think I already walked. Shauna nodded. You know they'll call you emotional. Unstable. Difficult. Danielle looked out the window. Let them. I'm not proving anything. I'm protecting everything. That afternoon, in a local community center, not the estate, not a ballroom, Danielle stood in front of reporters. No script. Just truth. We're withdrawing from the merger, she said, voice steady. Not because of money. Because of values. She spoke of dignity, vision, culture of being invited to a table, but never expected to lead. The crowd was silent. Then applause. Then chaos. Every outlet picked it up. Black woman CEO walks away from $500 million deal over values. TikTok. Twitter. Talk shows. The Bington scrambled. PR team spun. It didn't matter. Danielle hadn't thrown a tantrum. She just told the truth. At Neurospace, morale soared. T-shirts printed. We build. We don't beg. Danielle didn't ask for them, but she wore one under her blazer the next board meeting. 5 new offers came in values aligned, diverse-led, hungry for real vision. That night, Danielle sat alone, phone in hand. One message caught her. You didn't just protect your company. You gave us permission. She smiled. They wanted her genius, just not her voice. But what they didn't understand was, her voice was the genius. And now the world knew if you can't value someone's presence, you better be ready to feel the power of their absence. So tell me if you were in Danielle's shoes. Would you have stayed for the check or walked for your dignity? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what leadership really looks like.